friends, this is Karen from Blue Rooster Farm, and today I'm in the kitchen and I'm getting ready to make some pizza bombs and a big pizza loaf. So if you're interested in seeing how I make those, stick around. Thanks for sticking around. Well, today is President's Day. It's a balmy 13 degrees out. It was snowing this morning. Last week, the kids only went to school a couple of days, and then we had snow, and then the roads have been bad. And this week, I don't know what it's going to be for kids in our school district. The temperatures are going to be sub-zero, and that's just regular temperature, not the wind chill. So we'll see if they get to attend school this week or not. I'm sure they're enjoying being out and having a lot of fun. But last night, Landon came home and he and his dad are out working on some vehicles and getting some stuff done. So I thought I would make some pizza bombs and a big pizza loaf. And since Landon's here, I figured I'd make both since I'm going to be making the dough. And then he can take some of the pizza bombs, put them in the freezer, and have some meals ready for him and some lunches ready for him when he goes to work. So thought maybe that would be helpful for him. I'm going to turn you down right here and we're going to get started. Now there is an easier way of making this, but I'm going to show you my from scratch method because this is the way I always make it. But if you want to cheat and you want to go buy the Rhodes loaf bread or the dinner rolls, that would be perfectly fine. I personally find it's easier to make the dough than it is to buy the Rhodes because it takes so long for it to thaw and then rise. I can get the dough made and risen in such a short amount of time that I don't want to waste time waiting for it to thaw out. So it's whatever you want to do, but it tastes really delicious either way. This recipe that I'm making here is for a basic white bread, and it makes 2 loaves. So I can have one loaf that is the pizza loaf and the other one that are the pizza bombs. Now, I am going to actually make another loaf. So I'm going to take this recipe and add another half of a recipe to it. That way I can make 1 pizza loaf, and then I'll have 2 bread loaves to make the 2 batches of pizza bombs. That way we'll have plenty and Landon can have some and everybody will be happy. But they're great for freezing, and that's what we're going to do. So when you make something, you might as well make more because it's so much easier to make double the batch and then freeze some of it than make it twice. And so that's what I usually do. So as you can see, this has just basic ingredients: milk, sugar, salt, butter, margarine, active dry yeast, water, and all-purpose flour. So I'm going to figure how much I'm going to need for my recipe and a half. And that's what I'll be using. Now, if you are going to just want the single recipe, that's fine because I will be sharing it with just this recipe, which is 2 loaves. And I'll either have a link to this recipe because a lot of times they have these online, or I'll write it out. But depending on what you need, this recipe right here is 2 loaves. So let me get started. I am going to take, let's see, it looks like I'll take, this calls for half a cup of milk. I'll be taking 3/4 cup of milk. I'll be taking 4.5 tablespoons of sugar, 3 teaspoons of salt, and 4.5 tablespoons of butter or margarine. And I'm going to put that in a pan and warm that up. You could also do that in the microwave. And we're just going to heat it up until the butter is melted. Then we're going to let that cool off so it doesn't kill our yeast, just to a nice lukewarm. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll bring you back. Now, while my milk mixture is cooling down, I am going to take my water. Let's see if we can find it here. You will have 1.5 cups of warm water. I am going to have 2¼ cups of warm water. And I am going to be adding my yeast. Now, if you're making a regular batch, it is 2 packages. I'm going to use 3. And I usually use a tablespoon per package. It's a little more than you need to, but I've got the Red Star yeast here. I noticed that my jar is getting empty, so I am refilling it. I just opened this one. I guess I didn't get the seal all the way open. And I am going to fill my jar. Here we go. Fill my jar with some new yeast. Now, I buy this in bulk, and you can either buy it and put it in the freezer or the refrigerator. I usually put it in the refrigerator because I use it pretty quickly, but if you don't, you can just put it in the freezer and it does just fine in there. So now that is all filled up in there, and that gives just about a quart. You know, I had a little bit in there already, but that fills up that jar pretty good. So normally for this bulk yeast, you can take 2 1/4 teaspoons for 1 package of the yeast. I usually just use a tablespoon. Our house is a little cooler, and so it helps it rise a little quicker. But 2 1/4 teaspoons is what they recommend. So I'm going to add, since we need 2.5 packages in my water, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons. 1, and don't make your water too hot. It just should be lukewarm. 2, and then 1/2 tablespoon, which would be 1.5 teaspoons. And so that looks like about 1/2 to me. Again, I'm not worried about measuring it too exact. And there we have that. And we'll just mix it in to let it start working. Okay, I will bring you back when our milk mixture is nice and cooled down to lukewarm. Our milk and butter mixture is cooled down to lukewarm. Our yeast mixture is over here looking good. It's bubbling and getting going. And now we're going to start mixing our ingredients together. If you're making the regular batch, you're going to take 4.5 cups of all-purpose flour. I'm using bread flour because I have it, and I want to use it and save my other flour for my baking of cakes and cookies and things. But all-purpose flour is perfectly fine. So you're going to add 4.5 cups of all-purpose flour. I'll be adding about 6 to 7 cups. And as I'm talking, I'm losing count. Okay. And then we are going to add, I'm going to add my cooled down milk mixture first. And let's get all that good stuff out of there. Sometimes that sugar will settle to the bottom. There we go. And I'm going to start this up on low. Get all that in there. So we're going to turn it to speed 2, and we're going to mix for 1 minute. And I will probably stop and scrape down here in just a second. I find that until it gets to a certain thickness, it's hard to get the dry flour incorporated. Once it gets to a certain thickness, it'll start sticking and getting incorporated just fine. Okay, after a minute, we're just going to scrape down again. And now we're going to start adding about a half a cup of flour at a time while it's mixing at speed 2 until it becomes the right thickness, and it should all come together nicely. So let's do speed 2. So after it had started clinging to the hook and cleaning the sides of the bowl, then I just stopped adding flour, and then I let it mix for 2 minutes longer. It's just slightly sticky, not much, but it's very soft and it is ready to rise. So what I'm going to do is I have greased my big bowl, and I am just going to put that in here, cover it, and I'm going to put it in my oven after I slightly warm it, since it is so cold today and my kitchen is fairly cool since I'm not baking anything right now, just to get it where it will rise pretty quickly. Put it in a warm area. Now you don't want to get it too warm. You don't want to make it rise too fast. That's not good either, but we'll get it to at least 70 something degrees in the house. So I'm just gonna pour that in here. And then it's nice stretchy. The bread flour will make it a little bit stretchier texture, but again, like I said, you're fine with just all purpose. That's what the recipe calls for. I'm going to put a little oil on top, and I'm going to cover it. And if you want to see how to make these bowl covers, I have a jar bonnet video that talks about how to make them, and you can make them in any sizes. And this works perfect on my big enamel pan, and it's good for letting dough rise. I can throw this in the wash and wash that. So this is going to go in a warm spot, and I'll bring it back when it's finished rising. Okay, my bread has risen for about an hour, and as you can see, it's done a great job at rising. Now we're going to punch it down, and I'm just going to bring it together, and it's just a really nice soft dough. And so a third of this will be 1 loaf. You just kind of get it nicely into a ball, and I'm just pushing it into the center, and it's just kind of pulling and stretching over. So let me just move that out of the way, get just a little bit of flour, not much, and lay it here. And we need to cut about a third of it off of here. Let me get a knife. Okay. So This should be good for a meal for us. I'm just taking that raw edge and folding it in, so I've got a nice little ball right there. And this is gonna go back into the bowl right here, and I'm just gonna cover it to keep it from drying out. And we're gonna take this first, and we are going to roll it out into a rectangle. I think you can see. And this has got a lot of gluten in it since I used the bread flour, and it's going to really stretch and then pull back in. If it's too hard for me to roll out, I'll just let it rest for a few minutes and then come back. It'll loosen up and allow me to roll out some more. But I want to roll it out pretty thin, not like a pie crust or anything like that, but we're going to fill it, and we don't want to have a lot of bread between all of the layers of meat and cheese. We like to have a lot of the meat and cheese in there, so we want to get it nicely proportioned and have the layers filled with the meat and cheese and a little bit of bread. And I'm letting it stick a little bit to the board, that way it'll kind of hold it just a little bit. It's not sticky like you can't get it up, but I'm not over flouring my board. And in fact, I think I'm gonna just let it rest here for just a second while I get a few things made, and then I can continue rolling it. It's gonna roll out just fine. Let me see if I can tilt that camera down just a little bit. Oh, there, now you can see better. Okay. So while this is resting for just a minute, I am going to take about a half a cup of olive oil, and I am going to put in that. Now hopefully this will be enough for all of it. If not, we can always make more since I'm making a large batch. This is my homemade Italian seasoning mix. So I'm gonna put probably 2 tablespoons of that in there. I'm going to put just a bit of crushed red pepper, just to give it just a little kick. Don't want anything hot, but just a little kick. Probably like 1/4 of a teaspoon or less. I think I'm just going to do 1/8 of a teaspoon. Then we're going to put some garlic in there. Let me get my garlic crusher here. And this will crush with the skins on it, and it'll push it through, but it works better if I take the skins off, since I'm going to do several cloves. Not quite as hard to push. And again, to your taste in garlic, I've got 4 cloves here because we like garlic, but it's just to your taste. Started snowing again, and it looks like it's got a bit of a breeze out. Snow's not coming straight down, it's kind of coming across. Very fine snow, of course, because it's so cold, it will be fluffy. And I can't remember what we're supposed to get down to tonight, but it is supposed to be really cold tonight. I think -9 one day, or one evening this week. All right, so we got our garlic in there, and let's let's see, didn't bring make it something to stir with. And we will just stir that all up. And I'm going to stick this in the microwave for about 40 seconds. I don't want to get it boiling hot, but I want it warm enough to pull that garlic flavor out and those herb flavors into the oil. That smells really good. Very good. Garlic and Italian seasonings. I'm also going to add some regular pepper to it, ground pepper. Okay. Just make sure it's all stirred up. Now let's see if this is going to cooperate with us. Yeah, that's doing a nice job now. Okay, and I just want to roll it out into a nice rectangle. And depending on how much dough you have will depend on how big your rectangle is. Mine looks like it's going to be about 14 by 10 or 12. Let's say by 12, I think. 14 by 12. Okay, just getting it even. Okay, so I'm going to roll this, and you can decide which way you want to roll it. I think I'm going to roll it long ways, like this, and roll it like this. That way it'll be a longer loaf and not quite as thick. So first thing I'm going to do, and this shouldn't be boiling hot, it should just be warm, just nice and warm. And I'm just going to take our seasoning herb mix and oil and just slather that on our rolled out dough. I'm going to leave about 2 inches at the bottom here and not put any of that oil on there so I can seal it up. And this is going to give it a really good flavor. And when I do this, I try to get that garlic out with my silicone brush, and I get those herbs out too. I don't want to just leave them in there. I want them in my pizza loaf. Okay, so there's what I've got. Now I'm going to take some Parmesan cheese, and I'm just going to put a layer of it, let it absorb some of that oil. And it's just however much you like. Just make sure it's all over the oil. And so for this one, since this is going to be our big pizza, I think I'm going to use a combination of pepperoni and sausage. We had sausage for breakfast this morning, so I just took the sausage patties that were left and just kind of ground them up, chopped them up. And then I've got pepperoni right here that we'll use as well. For my cheese, I have mozzarella and I have an Italian blend. You can also use an additional little bit of yellow cheese if you like that for different flavors. I would suggest you do have some mozzarella in there because that will give it that stretch and that Italian flavor. Now, I am also going to throw in on half of this some onions and peppers. So let me see, I've got some frozen onions and frozen peppers that I have right here. And usually when I'm doing something like this with a bread dough that's rising, I don't like to use the cold stuff because that might inhibit it from rising. But I'm gonna go ahead and use a little bit because I won't be using too much. So these are some red onions that we had last year. And they've just been chopped up and frozen in a plastic bag, and I'm just breaking them apart and putting them right here. And just making sure they're in small pieces. And then I will just sprinkle half of this. If so, somebody might not want the peppers and onions on theirs, and so I'll just put it on half. You could also do olives, and bacon would be really good too. Okay, then I've got some sweet red bell peppers here, and I'm gonna these are sliced for fajitas and things. I'm just going to chop them up. I just grabbed whatever I could really quickly. We have the chopped ones out there too, but these were easy to reach, so I just grabbed these. And you know, if you like something hot and spicy, you could add a little bit of jalapeno into it also. That would be fine. Now these are Italian pizza bombs and pizza bread, but you can also make some Mexican flavored and use fillings that are Mexican, cumin and Mexican taco seasoning, and sausage and things like that. But we're going with the Italian style. So I'm just going to take a small handful. I'll save a few of these for the pizza bombs. And get all the way to the edge, because that edge is going to be eaten too. No one wants to get an edge piece and not have anything in it. Okay, so I've got that. Now I'm going to take a little bit of my cheese. Here's my Italian blend cheese. And I'm going to go all over, except for that clean part we have here at the bottom. And then I'm going to do mozzarella. Just kind of like making a pizza, except we're going to roll it up. Okay, and that looks good. Then I'm going to do a little bit of sausage and then the rest pepperoni. This is going to taste great tonight. And then here's our pepperoni. And we'll just load it high with pepperoni. Now the pepperoni does have quite a bit of oil in it, so when you do bake it, really any of these pizza loaves or pizza breads, there's going to be oil that comes out, so you'll just need to make sure that you have a pan that will catch that oil and not let it get all over your oven. And if it's not oil, it might be juices. And the cheeses, you know, of course, have some oil in it too, especially if you use some yellow cheeses. And you want to put plenty of filling, because the last thing you want is just to have a piece of bread with a little bit of Italian flavor. You want this to be loaded. So I'm kind of layering it. What do you think? Do you think that looks like enough? How about that? Okay, so now that we've got it full, let me think if there's anything else I want to put on it. I think we got it all. Okay, so let's just start rolling this up. And this is kind of the tricky part, because you don't want all the filling to roll out of it. So you just want to fold it. And pick it up and fold it again. And we left a nice big area at the bottom so that if we have extras that are starting to push out, they have a place to go. We won't need all of this space at the bottom to seal it. Just keep pushing stuff back in if it falls out. Okay, I'm going to turn this so you can see it. Okay, so now I have it open right here. And so I'm just going to take and I'm going to pull both a pinch of the loaf and the strip that's left, or the raw edge that we have there of the bread dough. And I'm just pinching it together. And now I'm going to turn it under and pinch. And just kind of kneading it together so that it's sealed up nicely. This is going to go down on the cookie sheet that we're going to be baking on it, so it should hold the seal. Okay, now the other thing I like to do, and you don't have to, we sometimes close it, we sometimes don't. If you don't close it, you're going to have quite a bit of stuff oozing out. So I'm going to go ahead and close, and I'm just going to pinch the ends. Make sure I get it all in there. And it still might pop open, but it's okay. It'll slow down the stuff that's going to want to try to come out. And just kind of knead the dough just like that. Okay, so here we have our bread, and I'm just pushing it together, making sure we're in good shape here. And now I'm going to get my pan and a little bit of cornmeal. I'll be right back. Okay, I've just got a cookie sheet that has a lip on it. And I've also got a silicone sheet in here. If you want to line it with aluminum foil, that works great too. So I'm just going to take some of my cornmeal, dust my pan with it. Then I'm going to pick this up carefully, and if it doesn't go across, go diagonally with it, just like this. And then I am going to take a little bit of my oil and herb, and I'm just going to rub it on the top. That will be really yummy. That a really good flavor on the outside. Then I'm going to take just a little bit of Parmesan, just a little bit. It may have a tendency to burn, so you don't want to overdo it. And this one is ready to rise just a little bit. Probably let it rise for about 15-20 minutes, and then we'll be putting it in the oven. So I'm going to move out this, and then I'm going to get all the stuff ready for the pizza bombs. Be right back. Okay, I've got that all moved out of the way, and now let's take a look at our bread dough here. So we're going to just start. I'm just going to punch it down a little bit. It was rising a little more. We're just going to start taking off a chunk, probably the size of a walnut, like that. And we're going to flatten it out. A circle. You can roll it up first and then flatten your circle out. And you can do it on this or in your hand. I'm going to lay it right here. I don't know if you can see this that great, but so just kind of flattening it out. I'm going to just brush it a little bit just in the middle with my flavored oil. I'm going to put some Parmesan in there. I'm going to put some cheese. And then this one I'll make sausage. Now if you want some veggies, you can add those, but I think this one's going to be fine just with sausage. Then I'm going to bring it up and pinch it on all four sides, like this. And then I'm going to close the ball. Just pinch it together, just like that. Okay, make sure it's all sealed. And there's one. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing. We're going to powder this with a little bit of cornmeal. I'm going to lay that right on top. Again, this has a silicone mat on it. You can put aluminum foil, or you can just grease your sheet. That's fine too. This just makes it easier to clean up, because a lot of times you will have some of these bombs that leak. They actually go off. But this just helps with cleanup. I'm going to do another couple of them for you, and I'm going to bring you in a little bit to show you. Okay, so I think this is better. So I'm just going to grab a piece of dough, And again, it's about the size of a walnut. And I'm going to roll it into a nice ball by pinching it in the back there. So we have a nice ball. And then we're just going to flatten that out. And you can put it down and flatten with your fingers like this. I tend to push in the center and then stretch out just like that. And depending on how much filling you want in it, determines the size and how far you stretch it out. So then we're going to get our oil and stuff and put just a dab right in the middle. I don't want to put it around the edges because I don't want them to not seal. And we'll put a little bit of Parmesan in the middle, and that'll absorb some of that up. We'll put some cheese. And let's put a few pieces of pepperoni in this one, probably about 4. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take 2 places in the dough that are across from each other, pick them up, pinch them together in the middle like that. Take the other opposite sides, pinch them up just like that. So what you have is this, but you can see it's not closed, so we need to close it up by bringing it together. And I'm using my hand here and kind of pushing that dough up and just kind of kneading it a little bit to close all those seams. And there we have our pizza ball. So let's do another one. It's just like making little pizzas. This time we're going to put a little bit of veggies in it, some pepper and onions. And I think I'm going to use a little bit of yellow cheese too with sausage. So a little bit of our oil. Oops. I've gotten a little bit too much there. That's all right. A little bit of Parmesan, let that soak that up. Some of our yellow cheese. This is still a little frozen. It's just some that we keep on hand. It's probably Monterey Jack and cheddar. And then of course some mozzarella and a little bit of sausage, and then make sure everything's in there. And you'll notice your dough kind of starts shrinking up on you. It starts pulling back. That's okay. We can get that stuff back in there. We'll just pull it together, push it in, push it in. Whoops. And then pull this side up and this side up, pinch them, and then kind of knead it a little bit. Make sure there's no holes. And there you go. All right, I will finish the rest of these and I'll bring you back when we're getting ready to put them in the oven. I'm going to heat my oven up to 375 degrees. Okay, I'll see you in a minute. The pizza bombs are all shaped, and now I'm just taking what's left of my herb oil and I'm just going to brush each one with it. And I'm going to be separating these so they're not close together on the baking sheet. You can definitely put them together so that they're closer, like in a dinner roll pan, and have them close together and then just pull them apart, you know, as you're eating them. Put a bunch of this nice herb sauce over them, a little bit of Parmesan, bake them that way. Those would be really good, more like a pull apart pizza bomb. But I'm going to keep mine apart because I'm going to be freezing them and just pulling out what we need when we want to eat them. But Again, if you run out of your oil, just mix up some more. This pan right here has peppers and onions. And then the other one just has the meat and cheese, no peppers or onions. Trying to keep them separated. I tell you, this smells really good, this oil. This would make a really good dipping sauce for French bread. So get that all on there. And as you see, I have a lot of the herbs on the sides of the jar. So what I'm going to do is just add a little bit of oil to that and it will be fine. Just added a tablespoon or so in there, don't need much. And then I'm just cleaning the sides with my brush here. And then that's got it all incorporated back in there. That's just perfect. Then we'll sprinkle with a little Parmesan. Not much. You could do a little salt on the top if you wanted to, some coarse salt. Okay, I'm going to set these aside for about 15-20 minutes. My oven has heated up to 375 degrees. This, since it had some of the frozen stuff, is kind of chilled still, but I'm going to go ahead and stick it in. It should do fine in the oven. I'm going to bake it for probably 20 to 30 minutes, just kind of watching to see how it does. Again, make sure you have a pan that has a lip on it to catch anything that spills out of it, and we'll see how this goes. Now, while my pizza loaf or pizza bread is baking, I've gotten a can of my spaghetti sauce from, I guess, the year before last is when this one was made. And so I am going to pour it in a little pan, and I am going to be heating this on the stove and just simmering it while our pizza bombs and our pizza bread, pizza loaf, cook. So this is going on the stove. If you don't have your own homemade spaghetti sauce, just use a jar that you find on the grocery shelf. All right, I have just pulled this out of the oven. It is very hot still. When you tap on it, it kind of sounds hollow. I am going to let it rest for about 5 or so minutes because we don't want to cut into it and then have all the cheese just melt out of it. We want it to firm up just a little bit. And when we get ready to cut it up, I'll bring you back. Well, the vultures have circled the kitchen.
I can fit that description.
They're circling and they are smelling the good smell and they're ready to eat. So I'm going to slice this up, put it on a plate, and they're going to tell you how good it is. So let me just move this over here. I have my spaghetti sauce all heated up and we've got it in little cups, and then we're having some broccoli and cauliflower on the side. So let me just take off this end and let's take a peek inside of it. That looks good. So let me go ahead and take a slice, and if you'll hand me a plate there, Landon. Let's put it in like this. Let's show a picture. And so there, I've got cheese stretching all over the place. There is a piece right there. We have our hot spaghetti sauce with it. Landon's gonna hold off for just a second because he and Andy are gonna be my taste testers. So we'll get another one here. All that melty cheese inside of there. Okay, they've got their plates all set and they're gonna give it a try. So the camera's on, you guys.
Okay, no pressure.
Now I have the pizza bombs in the oven still, so they're cooking, and we'll taste test one of those too. But those are going to be used for later. We're going to eat the loaf tonight. So it's very hot still because it just came out of the oven. Be careful.
Mm-hmm.
Landon's saying good. How about you, Andy?
Very good. Very tasty.
Remember these, Landon?
Yep.
Remember how we used to make
some of my favorites from growing up.
Yeah, we used to make these a lot more than we do now. Well, I'm going to let you guys eat, and then I'm going to take the others out in just a second, and then we'll do a taste test on those. I'll bring you guys back. All right, I just pulled these out, and they are piping hot, but I have two still hungry men over here, even though we've devoured half of our loaf. And they're each going to get one and try it. So I'm going to give them a spatula. And these are the ones that have like onions and peppers in them, and these do not. Some of them are sausage, some of them are pepperoni, some of them are both. And they have an assortment of cheeses. So Andy's working his way, trying to get one there. Get one for Landon over here. They're very, very hot, so be careful. We're not letting these rest for 5 minutes. Let's see what the verdict is on these.
Just one bite.
You aren't going to be able to do a bite. They're going to burn your mouth. And pull it open for us, Landon. That looks good. Boy, it's smoking.
Looks good.
Yeah.
Sausage one.
Is that what that is?
Yep.
Okay.
Dunk.
Dip it in your sauce.
Hot.
What kind did you get, Andy?
It is good.
But what's in it?
Oh.
Is there pepperoni or sausage?
It looks like sausage.
Sausage. So both of them are getting sausage.
Yep.
So do you notice a difference between the taste of the two?
Pretty similar from the meat and stuff.
Yeah, they should be.
Very good. Nice and crispy crust on the outside and soft and tender on the inside, and all the melty cheese and meat and everything. It's very good.
Thank you, Landon. Andy, do you have a few words?
I'm just eating mine.
All right.
I really like the sauce too.
Well, thanks for watching. Remember, if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. We would really appreciate that. Also, don't forget to like and share. And I hope to see you back here next time. Thanks for watching.